No worries.
Okay, my goodness. I guess either we did something wrong or Zoom is just going bananas today. Sorry, everyone. That was a bit of technical difficulties to start the day, not like we had hoped, but thank you for sticking around, those of you who have. Hi,
It
Corey.
can only
How you
get better
doing?
from here. I'm
Yeah,
doing well. How are
well,
you?
don't say that. I'm doing good. I'm doing really good. Thanks for joining me. Everyone, my name is Andy Yost. I'm with a company called McFaddenSales. We are manufacturers representatives in a territory for the Shure brand. This is my good friend Corey Willis. He is Chief Market Development Specialist for Shure and based in Chicago, in humid Chicago, we decided, right? Nasty and humid.
Very humid today. Chicago, it's literal polar opposites, either really cold or extremely hot. So we got a
Yeah.
hot one today.
Wow. Okay. So thank you all for joining us. This is exciting. So Corey and I have been doing these little Friday dates for this is the third of and the final one, I suppose. And when we had this idea originally, this was the first one we discussed doing. And we entitled it Demystifying in-ear monitors. And what that means to us is in-ear monitors, and for those of you that don't know, easily recognizable by the earphones musicians or broadcast people wear on camera or on stage to hear themselves perform or play. There's a lot of misconceptions about in-ear monitors. There's a lot of uncertainty on how to get started. It's a bit intimidating. It can be a bit isolating. And for that reason, among others, sometimes it's hard for people to actually just dive into it and try it. And once you do try it, it's almost impossible to go back because it's just, there's so many advantages to going with in-ear monitors versus the traditional setup. So we were toying around with calling this why in-ear monitors, but really, I think it was actually a customer of mine brought up the idea of demystifying it for people. And that's what we hope to talk about today. So a bit about why you should try them out, some best practices, and then what Shure has to offer specifically for getting you started. Right? So is that
Exactly.
fair?
Yeah.
What do you think?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah. So I've worked on both sides of the snake with this. As a wireless tech, monitor tech, monitor engineer at times, but then also just recently went out and took some PSM 300 on the road as an artist and worked out fantastic. And frankly, I don't want to turn back. Stage
Was that
wedges, no
you,
thanks.
the user, or were you running monitors for somebody else?
Was the user in this case. So yeah, like I said, I've been on both sides of it, and after having actually used it on tour, consistency every night is I don't want to turn back.
Right.
So
Right. So let's start here. Before we get into the nitty gritty of Shure specific products or earphones or things like that, why choose in-ear monitors? Why would a musician, that's both Corey and I are musicians, so that's kind of our default. Why would a performer of any kind choose to wear in-ear monitors or employ an in-ear monitor system against a traditional setup? For musicians on a stage, a traditional setup is typically a kickback style monitor in front of them, just ripping their heads off, or some sort of version of that for hours on end. That's what most of us are used to. So let's go back and forth on some of the benefits of why in-ear monitors. The first one, speaking to the example I just gave, is hearing conservation. And it's something that particularly young people probably don't think much about. But if I had to define the most important reason long term for in-ear monitors, it is protecting your hearing and all
absolutely.
that implies, right? So um, anybody that's ever
I
played on a
mean,
stage can identify with, like, you get the mix right, your front of house guy gets the mix right, and then you slowly start turning your bass amp up or your guitar amp, or the drummer starts hitting the snare harder because the room fills up with people and he's all passionate, and all of a sudden the noise on stage is so unbearable it can actually make you nauseous, right? So
absolutely. Yeah. I mean, and there's also, say you're the opening act and, you get on stage, you have 5 minutes to do a quick line check and then, raise your hand and okay, yeah, that's enough for me. And next thing you know, like you said, bass is turning up, guitar's turning up. And yeah, just loud stage overall. I mean, the natural human body like you start to lose that hearing spectrum anyways.
Hmm.
But if you're a professional or amateur musician, just on stage in general, and you got a monitor wedge screaming at you every night, you can't control the volume most times. Then yeah, it's gonna just start diminishing even quicker. So hearing
Yeah.
conservation, definitely top reason why in-ear monitors are becoming so popular.
One of my college bands practiced in a garage, concrete floors, drywall, garage door, steel garage door. There was times I got nauseous, had to end practice early because the decibels, the rock was so tasty. The decibel level was
Absolutely.
so extreme that it actually made me nauseous. So this isn't
Hmm.
just your ears ringing after the show. There's some long-term issues that can arise from blasting your head with monitors, traditional wedge monitors on a stage. To me, that's the biggest one for why in-ear monitors. Um,
Absolutely.
Looking down my list, number two probably is mobility on stage, I would think. So think of yourself as, I'm a guitar player. On a guitar player on a stage, if you do have a dedicated stage monitor that's probably extremely loud, you kind of have a sweet spot for where you need to be in order to hear your amp and to hear the monitor or some combination of the two. And if you shift outside that, you're losing one of those, which can kind of, make your mix or your onstage referencing experience pretty crap. So in your monitors, your mix is all here. You can move everywhere. You can go out in the crowd, assuming you have wireless. That's a different conversation. But the mobility that this gives you and the freedom on stage is something that people probably don't even realize that until they try them, and then they realize that's a big deal, right?
And you can still use that stage wedge for guitar solos. You got your foot up
Mm.
on there, and so it's still good for something. But like you
The
said, you
Mark,
can move around consistent. So
the Mark Tremonti. I don't know why he's always who I think of. Think of that.
he's
I've
got
been
his
known
foot
to
on the
do that.
wah pedal though.
That's
But
what it is. One on the wall, one
yeah,
on the wedge. He's got this like
yeah.
rocking thing.
But yeah, with that mobility and referencing the stage wedges, we've talked about it a little bit, but just bringing the overall stage volume down is good for not only you as a performer and your ears, but if you're a front of house engineer or a monitor engineer, that brings the stage volume down immensely. A lot of times there's a back and forth. If you've got a stage engineer and a front of house engineer, there's a back and forth between the PA fighting with how loud the stage is, and it may not always be apparent to the crowd, but it's always apparent to the front of house guy, and they're calling each other back and forth, and arguing over, you need to take those monitors down, and then feedback issues. There's a number of things that have arose from just a loud stage environment. So
Yes.
not only helps the performer, but helps the engineer too.
And here's the thing about that I always tell people in my little circle that are not musicians is that the people in the crowd who you're doing this for mostly,
Mhm.
they don't know any of that stuff. So if your
Absolutely.
stage is louder, if the front of house guy is having to compensate or sometimes just turn the faders down because your stage volume is so loud it suffices for the room, it's not going to
Mhm.
sound very good. But anybody in the crowd doesn't know, like they're dancing or having fun. They're thinking, wow, this band's either great or this band sounds like crap. And it could be because of those things Corey just mentioned. They're not going to know that, right? So
But one thing that they do know is feedback. And,
right.
if you've got a screaming stage and the mic starts feeding back, they do know that. And
Yeah.
yeah, that's bad for everybody.
And no one ever in my history, long tenure of playing live, no one hears feedback and turns and looks at the front of house guy like, oh, what are you doing? Then no one knows that. It's always the musicians on
Yeah.
the stage, right? So think of it as the mobility on stage, of the hearing conservation. This kind of creeps into my third one, which is just
Mhm.
cleaner referencing. And again, in-ear monitors, speaking to demystifying and some misconceptions, are intended to be referencing monitor systems. They're not, I'm not going to name any names, but headphones or earphones that are intended to heighten your musical consumption with some
Mhm.
scooping and some things. They're intended to reproduce the original sound source as faithfully as possible so that you can adequately monitor yourself to know how you sound for the people you're performing for. There's no better way to do that than to have a dedicated mix that's pumped straight to earphones on your head. If you hear yourself cleaner, more accurately, you're going to perform better with more dynamic, with more accuracy, and better tune also than you would with that screaming stage that Corey just mentioned, right?
Well, and as a singer, you're going to be saving your voice too. You can get a more accurate mix, meaning that you're not going to be hearing your voice only through this monitor wedge. And if you're on the road, if you're on tour or doing shows night after night, you're going to be saving your voice because you're going to be hearing yourself better and with more accuracy, like you said. So, just another added benefit.
Are you a singer? Do you sing?
Backups. I've been told I have one of the worst voices that this I won't name the name, but a front of house person has ever heard. A person I used to work with, but
Wow,
yeah.
what a compliment. That was nice.
Oh, I know. But I digress. So not a singer, but I mean, I referenced a tour that I just did at the end of last year, and where we did about 4 weeks on the road, and the singer was able to save her voice, whereas previous tours with just using monitor wedges on the stage, it was gone within 2 weeks. But
Right.
you're able to, sing at a lower, lower volume, a lower intensity, because you're able to hear yourself better, and you're not trying to compensate by screaming into the mic, pushing too hard. Exactly.
Pushing too hard. Exactly. So that cleaner referencing, I mentioned at the top of this, the most important thing is probably hearing conservation, but from a musicianship performance perspective, cleaner, more accurate referencing is probably the most if you have a proper mix in an in-ear monitor system, like with earphones, it is the best possible experience for monitoring yourself. It's the reason all the pros do it this way,
Absolutely,
against the traditional methods. So that goes into another point, which is consistency and repeatability of having a mix. Most people, there's a lot of bands out there that go from bar to bar to bar to play, or weddings or corporate events or whatever it is, knowing how, obviously you have to send the in-ear monitor system a mix, but kind of having an understanding of what that experience is going to be like on stage and having it be more consistent from place to place. That's one of those things, like you do that so you don't have to even worry about it, and it's just there, and you can predict it, you know how to prepare for it and things like that. I remember one gig we played years ago. We were at a casino, and we show up, and there was 2 mixes total, front of house and stage, and we were a 5-person band, keys, drums, a singer that was all over the place, and we're looking at one monitor in the middle of the stage as our mix. That's it. And that was a little daunting. We all had to compensate. We had to move some things around, and it was a challenge. But with in-ear monitors, those types of scenarios, you don't have to. They're easier to navigate around, right?
And when talking instruments that typically take a direct in, like keyboard, et cetera, sometimes even bass or nowadays, guitar, you can have a fully quiet stage. But it allows those players and musicians to be able to hear themselves better than maybe sharing a wedge between keys and bass. Now, okay, well, who's louder, or who needs more? Now you have the ability to each have your own mix, and if you play a DI'd instrument, that's right in your ears rather than fighting with the rest of the stage. So.
That's actually one. This what you just mentioned touches on something that would be kind of zooming out from this conversation, but with the world going to more of a silent stage setup, like I substituted a pretty rocking amp rig with a giant mission control pedal board and all this stuff for a guitar modeler that blew me away with how good it sounds. Then my bass player got a DI box, and then our keyboard player was a keyboard player. But you think of how stages can be made more silent today with how good some of that stuff is getting. I hope we're not too far from people looking at giant wedge monitors on a stage and not even knowing what they are. Or, remember we used to have to use those, It's just feels like it's kind of becoming, and I'm in a room surrounded by giant cabinets and amps that I still love, but you can do a lot with a silent stage today.
And I think to that point, people should feel comfortable that, if you're going from venue to venue, more and more engineers are finding themselves not only able to, but familiar with mixing for in-ear monitors. So, you talked about the depending on your setup and your needs, and how far you want to go down the rabbit hole here, if you're bringing your own mixer, your own snake, things like that, and you can have the ability to be in your practice space, your garage, what have you, have your in-ear monitor set up, practice and get your own mixes dialed in, and then take that whole, pretty small rack into venue to venue and sound the same on stage,
Exactly.
So once again, depending on your setup, you can have that consistency to be able to sound the same on stage as you did in your practice space.
That's a huge deal. And the final one I have, and there are countless subcategories to these. So we talked about hearing conservation, mobility on stage, cleaner, more accurate referencing, consistency and repeatability, not only from gig to gig, but like you just mentioned, from practice space or bedroom to gig. Is the ability to upgrade with little subtle tweaks. So let me share this real quick. Something to note, and this is something I get a question about all the time, is we will hear people mention in-ear monitor systems. I need to check out in-ears. And what they really mean is they want to look at earphones or earbuds, right, as some people call them. In-ear monitor systems are comprised of, like it sounds, a system of components. There is earphones, of course, that plug into a body pack receiver that communicates with a sometimes rack mountable, sometimes tabletop transmitter. I always like to include this. If you're looking at a traditional wireless system, like a handheld vocal or guitar wireless system, the components look the same, but they're actually in reverse. The box with the antennas is actually the receiver, and the body pack or the handheld is actually the transmitter. So this box here transmits the mix to this pack that the performer wears with earphones plugged into them. It is a full system of components, not just earphones. Right. However, you can start with a entry level or kind of lower end from an application standpoint. In-ear monitor system like the one we were just looking at is a PSM 300 from Shure. And just by upgrading earphones, maybe like $100 jump at a time, there can be a substantial jump in your performance perception with that small investment of an upgrade, which if you're thinking for like going from a guitar amp to a much better guitar amp, sometimes that's twice as expensive. Right. Most categories, it's a significant jump, but with in-ears, you can improve quite a bit with just better earphones. Right.
Yeah. And I'm glad you brought that one up because, in talking about demystifying, in-ear monitor systems, realistically, the buy-in isn't all that much. So all of our PSM systems that we currently make, the 300, 900, and 1000, those are all stereo systems. But you can also set it to mono mode or mix mode, meaning that you can buy an infinite number of those body packs and sync as many of those as you want to the transmitter, and have, with just that one rack mount, have two mixes. You can. And then if you have a band that's willing to share mixes, we talked about the one monitor wedge on stage and you guys had to get through, with just one setup. I mean, you could theoretically have, with, one stereo transmitter, you could have two independent mono mixes. And if people are willing to, to share in the band, the buy-in is literally just the system you see there in the photo. And once again, you can buy an infinite number of packs and sync those to it. I like to use the reference of, it's like tuning all, different cars tuning into the same FM radio station. An infinite number of cars can tune in to that same radio station and hear the same thing at the same time. The same thing applies to the receiver body packs. So
that was always, did I learn that from you? I feel like that was always my reference, the car analogy, because that's the one that really drives this home for people. And to repeat that, typically, and correct me if I'm wrong, Corey, but typically the rule of thumb is a transmitter per mix or some variant of that. But you can have many body packs tied into that. So I've had people I've partnered with and consulted and sold a PSM in-ear monitor system to, that the band was okay with one mix. They just wanted quieter stage volume. So they got one transmitter and 4 body packs, and I think they were running mono, to be honest. And that alone, a lot of the benefits we just mentioned still happen with that setup alone, just that, multiple body packs and a single transmitter type scenario, right?
And because of that, we actually just recently, I want to say, we did it as a special for NAMM a few years ago, and it was so popular. We actually have twin packs for that PSM 300 system now. So
Right, is that here, isn't it?
that should be down there. Yeah. So comes with one stereo transmitter, 2 packs, and 2 sets of earphones. One thing we didn't touch yet is that with PSM 300, we actually have a couple different options for body packs. What you see pictured there is the P3R pack. It's plastic, has the same sync function as the P3RA, which I'll talk about in a moment. But it's a simpler setup. It's cheaper. The cheaper buy-in comes with our ST112 earphones and is a great option. I mean, it functions just the same as all the rest of our packs in terms of receiving your mix and allowing you to plug in your earphones and hear your mix through your body pack.
Right.
The other one pictured there is the P3RA. Biggest difference is obviously the metal construction and the display. So that display will tell you everything you need from your battery life, your RF signal strength, what channel you're on. You can even relabel with your name on it if you want, and that's the same form factor upwards. So PSM 300, 900, and 1000 all have that same form factor. Which allows us to talk about rechargeability. With that metal body pack, we actually make a rechargeable battery. It's proprietary to Shure. It's about the size of 2 AA's and allows you to use the same rechargeable battery whether you have PSM 300, 900, or 1000. I pull up my specs here. I've got, I believe it's 6 to 8 hours with a full charge with the SB900A battery.
That's what I was looking for, is a picture of the SB900, but
I've got one right here. I don't know if I'm on the presentation right now, but once again, it's about the size of 2 AA batteries. And that just fits nicely into the body pack and you're set. 6 to 8 hours with a full charge. So
that's nice.
Yeah, once again,
this is something that was, I kind of convinced myself that this was the case, but the harder you drive that pack, which layman's terms, the louder you make it in your head, does that drain batteries more? Does that drive it harder to the point where it's draining batteries more, and that 6 hours maybe less?
Well, 6 to 8 hours is typical. I do not have the any sort of case studies on that, but I'm sure that people in our application support department would definitely have either an FAQ or a quick answer for it.
Yeah.
So
I don't. Here's what I'll say. I was told that once in my years. I always used the PSM 300 system. Before that, I used a PSM 200 system, which was the predecessor, and the battery life was always incredibly consistent, to the point when I could predict in upcoming gigs about here, before that show, I'll probably need to swap out batteries. I never did the rechargeable thing, though I would have saved a ton of money had I done that. But
yeah,
that was pretty consistent.
Yeah, so I mean, we do tons of tests on those batteries on all of our products, frankly. But hundreds and thousands of charge cycles, that these things can last. And with rechargeability, you're saving on replacing your AA batteries every night too. So,
right.
I think they go for $99, and that right there is the cost of a couple packs of batteries. You know, so.
No kidding. Okay, so. Touching again on Shure's offerings as it has changed over the year. I know we kind of quickly highlighted it, but let me share this again. So for a person to, those of you watching at home, feel free to chime in with your specific questions if you have them. But for a person that hears what we're saying, that in-ear monitors are better for your hearing. They give you more mobility around the stage. They allow you to listen more cleanly and accurately, which makes you play better, which makes your audience have a better time, if you want to think of it that way. They're also more consistent and repeatable. And you can also upgrade earphones and have a better experience. Typically, the Shure range starts with something called PSM 300. Do you think there's any 200s? We haven't supported 200 in a few years, but this was the standard for a long time, is it not?
They're out there. They're
Yeah.
out there. Depends on the tuning range. I believe those now, or it depends. I believe they were in the 600 megahertz range. So those
Right.
are kind of a no-no to use if so. But
Right. Exactly.
they're out there and they were reliable and frankly what got us into the game. So
So from 300 is where someone could start. Like Corey mentioned, there are two versions. There's I always refer to them as PSM 300 and PSM 300 Pro, though that necessarily may not be Shure's nomenclature. But there is an upgrade for $100 or so. You get nicer earphones and a better receiver body pack experience for sure. And above that, you get into 900 and 1000. Who, in your experience, Corey, is more the user for PSM 900 or PSM 1000? What is the advantage there? It's not necessarily
yes.
sound quality, but what do you think?
No. I'd say okay. Let's go from 300. Let's just jump to 1,000, and then we'll touch on 900 for
Okay.
those in between. PSM 1000 is the industry standard for touring for installs. The reason being a number of things. First and foremost, the dual transmitter in just one rack space. You've got you can get 4 mono mixes or 2 stereo mixes in just one rack space with in a nice neat package. And you can do custom labeling, things like that. So if you have multiple channels, you can go through and see right there on the display in your rack a number of different things, such as your what channel you're working with, your audio metering, etc.
Mm-hmm.
PSM 1000 also gives you the largest channel count. That's depending on knowledge of how wireless frequencies work, and how the scan and open available frequencies in certain areas is at a base level for PSM 1000, being that it's our flagship and our pro touring setup, that can get up to 49 channels online per band. So
Wow.
meaning that in a obviously prime scenario, you can get close to 50 channels of PSM 1000 online at the same time because the tuning range is so wide. So that's going to be number one, that the higher channel count with PSM 1000 over say 900 or 300. So yeah, once again, that's going to be our one if you're looking to take this on the road and you're traveling in even the most difficult of areas such as Dallas or Miami. You'd be able to get a higher channel count with PSM 1000 than with 900 or 300.
Okay.
Yeah. In addition, when it comes to the transmitter or the rack mount transmitter itself, it's also able to be networked. So you can plug it into a network switch and have that do all of your monitoring, everything from from your channels that you can deploy all the way to audio monitoring, etc., with just your laptop. So you can plug in all of your PSM 1000s into a network switch and then do your scanning, all of your frequency deploying and inventory, et cetera, countless options by plugging that just right into your computer. And that's PSM 1000 is the only one of our current lineup that has the ability to do that. So and with that comes, wireless workbench is a whole nother conversation, a very powerful free tool that we offer to allow you to inventory and catalog all of your wireless systems, be it microphone transmitters or in-ear monitor transmitters as well.
Yeah, so just the spec readout, what this can do, it kind of paints the picture that this is more, I don't want to say pro, because that some people associate that with a quality, more of a scaled up application when you need 20, 30, 40, 50 people on a stage monitoring Broadway or Super Bowl halftime or something like that, where you need a considerable amount of stuff happening and reference monitoring in one place at one time. While we'd encourage everybody to shoot for the stars with their monitoring, this isn't necessarily, PSM 1000 isn't necessarily some place to start with in your monitors, or the sonic capabilities may not be the first thing people would think of to jump to this level. The quality of sound that comes out of PSM 300 specifically is just so phenomenal that for a lot of people on a few system application that's pretty much sufficient, at least in my experience.
I work for
PSM
the company
1000.
and that's what I use. So,
Yeah, you're a terrible
but
singer.
yeah,
We've already
so
talked about this.
so I think that that definitely touches on where the 900 falls in all of this, right? Is that PSM 900 is a lower buy-in, but at a base level gives you just a higher channel count than you'd have available for 300, but not necessarily with needing to go up to the PSM 1000. So that will get you up to 20 per band. So meaning 20 channels online per band at the same time. And it comes in half rack. So if you just need one stereo transmitter, that's an option. So yeah, there's
Okay.
some nice photos there.
Yeah, I was trying to not make you nauseous with my scrolling here, but okay.
Quite all right. But yeah, so similar form factor to the PSM 300. Once again, P3RA, so the metal option body pack for PSM 300. The 900 body pack and the 1000 body pack, those all have the same ability to have the same rechargeable battery, charging accessories, etc. So yeah, charging accessories, we make a ton of stuff. We make everything from 8-bay battery chargers that charge the batteries themselves. It's worth noting that this SB900A is utilized in a number of other wireless transmitters that we make, microphones that we make. This is used in the same the same batteries used in the mics, body pack transmitters, and these body pack receivers, meaning that you can buy our QLXD line of microphones, buy a bunch of rechargeable batteries, use them in your mics and your in-ear monitor body pack as well. And we make bay chargers that you can just drop your mic and your in-ear pack in, and they all can charge nicely there at the same time. So
you're holding an SB900A, right? Is that what you have?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
So
right there that you see.
To your point, to illuminate that, these are the products that those body packs or those rechargeable batteries can plug into or be used with, right? And it's pretty extensive. And I was trying to see if there's any of the charging options, but goodness gracious, I didn't realize the list was this. Oh yeah, so there we go. Some of those battery charging bays you were referring to.
Yeah, so the 8-bay charger on the right there, the SBC 800, that charges 8 batteries at a time with just a red light, green light metering. The SBC 200 you see there in the middle, that will charge either the batteries or your in-ear monitor body pack or your wireless transmitter body pack, or there you go, or the microphone itself. And you literally just drop it right in and you're charging. And same thing, you've got the red light, green light metering. And yeah, it's really, really useful for especially if you're doing, touring sound, whether you're, going in and mixing it yourself, or if you've got a monitor engineer or, on up. That's an amazing accessory to just be able to drop your body pack right in there, and it's charging, and it looks nice too on the side of the stage. So
yeah. So we could do an entire one of these on just cost savings and the benefit and convenience from a workflow perspective of having rechargeable batteries, but that would get dry and boring quite quickly. So
there's just one more product that that I actually saw pictured there that I didn't think to talk about, but so we talk wireless in-ear monitors typically because that's mainly what we make, but we do have one option if you don't mind scrolling up. It's the P9HW. So this is a hardwire pack. So essentially, same concept. Your mix is going straight to your ears. There you go, right in the middle. So as you can see, it looks just like our wireless packs, but it's got a nice little dual XLR for the input, and this is great for drummers, keyboard players, anyone that's going to be stationary. You knock down your channel count that you don't need one extra wireless frequency, but you still get the same monitoring capabilities, and you just plug your earphones or your headphones right into there, and you've got a stereo or a mono mix for the stationary player. So
and you mentioned it, drummers and keyboard players. This is a huge advantage. I played with a drummer who did the wireless option just because he also played guitar and wanted the opportunity to, if it was called for, to be able to come out and we'd switch instruments and stuff like that. But for a way to get into personal monitoring, this is such a convenient and more cost-effective way if you are sitting or, like you said, stationary. I'm really glad you brought that up, because that's it's almost an unknown thing. A lot of people know this.
Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yep, and like I said, essentially you're just adding a wire in there where typically we've been talking, wireless. So it's the same technology, same sonic quality, everything's the same. Only you've got a cable connected to it.
Yeah.
And like I said, if depending on your setup, you don't have to have find a new wireless frequency to be able to use that. So that's the last product I had on my list to talk about in terms of our offerings of PSM. So
we spoke about reasons why. You talked about the products that Shure offers from a system level, 300, 900, 1000, and where they kind of sit in the mix for the users. I mentioned something earlier. A lot of times when we bring up in-ear monitors, again, demystifying, I peel back layers of what a customer or a user is actually asking, and what they're really asking about is earphones. Earbuds, or some version of that. So when in the Shure realm, Shure's earphones are referred to as SE, and there's price points from $99 to $1,000, and everywhere in between. There's also quite expansive connectivity options, which we won't go into too much today. But I have on SE A46s here that are wired. There's also a Bluetooth cable option. And there is what else is there's a universal cable option, so like with a 3-button remote, and just different connectivity options for the earphones themselves. So just know that those exist. But for our purposes, the Pro earphone lineup as it sits today looks a little bit like this. So I mentioned the price points. Generally, as you step up, while sound quality does improve, what that really means for the user is why you would step up is, from my experience, is clarity, stereo separation if you have a stereo mix, and a little more accuracy, I would say, when you step up the earphone ladder. The biggest thing I wanted to mention here, there's two main things, is in regards to in-ear monitor systems, again, this is a main point. These are intended to be reference monitor systems. While they do sound fantastic, if the general user is comparing them against two other major earphone brands that start with a B that are enhanced in certain frequency ranges to have this giant woofy immersive sound, that's not always what people sound like on a stage. So in-ear monitor systems combined with true referencing earphones like the Shure SE line is intended to most faithfully reproduce the sound source as accurately as possible, so that you're really hearing what you really sound like, because that's what you want out of these things, right?
Right, and if you were to purchase our PSM 900 or PSM 1000 packs, and you were to purchase the system that came with the earphones, that's going to include our SE 425s. Those are very flat, and to your point, great for referencing. They allow you or your engineer to be able to accurately, reflect on what's actually being mic'd up and coming through from the stage mics. So yeah, that's what comes packaged there, the 425s, and then the $99 earphones, the SE 215s, that comes with our P3 RA packs, so the PSM 300 packs with a metal body pack.
Yeah, when you, I have a separate video. I'll share this in the chatter feed here on this stream, but we did a video on what I've always felt was the most important thing with earphones. The most important thing, whether is the frequency response or the amount of drivers or the type of drivers, to me, the most important thing is the quality of the fit. The way that earphones work, and this is brand agnostic, doesn't matter. Earphones use your ear canal somewhat as a bass trap. If it's the same idea as if you're talking and you plug your ear, you get this low end kind of feeling. The way that it is able to maintain low end frequency response, so bass, kick drums, warmth, and punch, is if it has a great seal in your ear. There's a reason that some white earphones that come with certain cell phones do not sound good. A big part of that is because they don't stay in your ear very well and they don't have a good seal at all. So if you don't get the fit right with any earphone, the performance of the earphone is going to suffer dramatically to the point where you probably would think they don't sound very good, regardless of how much you spent on them.
Absolutely. And on the heels of that, since we're talking about demystifying, in-ear monitor systems, I think a big question that I get, at least personally, is, or I guess it's more of a, I tried them, I didn't really like them because I felt so isolated, so you do need that good fit. You'll oftentimes see artists pop an ear out, an in-ear monitor out from just one ear. That's terrible for your hearing. Oftentimes, if you've had a bad experience and you feel disconnected from the stage because of in-ear monitors, you may just need an audience mic or a stage mic. So basically, you could do that in stereo. You could throw a left and a right mic up, or you could put one in the center of the stage. It really depends on what you need to feel comfortable. But having just one condenser mic pointing at the audience, so you got people yelling at you from the crowd, saying requests or things, or you just need to feel like you're actually still on the stage and not disconnected from everybody. Something as simple as one microphone just lightly in your mix can open the whole stage up to you. So that's a big one. If you've had a bad experience with in-ear monitors, that's probably what you need, is just a stage mic or an audience mic.
Even some places that I've played or run sound for, even if you have a few singers across the front, the room is small enough that even that helps. And we'll get into some best practices to close out here in just a minute, but that's a great point, because my point was, I'll tell this quick story. We had a Shure event we did years ago where we brought in a very well-known monitor engineer from Nashville. That goes way back. He has done stuff in LA, did stuff for MTV for years. He does all the CMT stuff. Great guy. He was telling a story where at the beginning of every tour or every show, he would do this earphone, like blind Pepsi challenge thing for the users. And the earphones were in front of people. Obviously they could see the brand, but they didn't know price points. And it was everything from $1,500 earphones or $1,000 earphones, all the way down to the Shure SE215, which is $99. And in his unbiased position, he said 7-8 times out of 10, people would choose an SE215, $99 single driver earphone. And there's reasons that we may not have time to get into why sometimes a single driver is better. More drivers doesn't necessarily mean better, but a lot of times he claimed they just seem to fit people's ears better. And because of that, they had a perceived heightening of their performance and isolation better.
Yep.
And that's what they chose, $99. I tell that story all the time because that's amazing to me.
Yeah.
These people have budgets and riders for days and can be, these are $1,000 earphones that I'm lucky enough to use every now and then just for fun. They could use those, but just the quality of fit and the comfort was enough for this $99 earphone to be the winner. I think that's pretty compelling.
Absolutely. Yeah. And I think sound is always subjective. I say that on whether we're talking mics or in-ear monitors or, what have you. Sound is always subjective, but if you've had a bad experience with in-ear monitors, it's likely because it's been one of those things. Either you didn't have a good fit, or the fit was too good and you felt disconnected from the stage, or frankly, you've just never used them at all. And it's becoming more and more, popular, and a lot more house engineers are becoming more comfortable with mixing in-ear monitor systems. So maybe that was part of your bad experience too, is that you had someone that didn't know how to mix them. So
that's a great point. And
yeah,
that's to suggest that there could be some monitor engineers out there that aren't up to snuff. Is that what you're saying? Because I've never.
I'm just saying that they're becoming more and more popular and prevalent, and people are starting to actually carry in-ear monitor systems with them.
Right.
And a lot more house venues are starting to have them installed. So
yeah, totally.
I think that as they become more prevalent, engineers are becoming more comfortable with mixing them, and more used to it. So
absolutely. So what you see here is the 215s that come with some of our PSM 300 systems, the PSM 300 Pro. The importance of getting a good fit, I'll drive it home one last time. Whatever earphones you choose to accompany your system, make sure you spend time getting the right fit. Each earphone in the Shure lineup comes with what we call a fit kit, which is a series of these replaceable and removable sleeves that are different sizes and textures. And you'll know when you get the right one because it will stay and it will sound glorious in your ears. So don't just assume the sleeve that comes on your earphone is the one that's intended one size fits all, because it's absolutely not the case. And once you get the right one, you'll definitely know. And then I put in the stream here, the feed, the link to the video we did where we kind of preach that even harder, because it's a big deal, we think, right?
And yeah, depending on your it's not even a preference thing. It's just the size of your ear canal. People could have two different sized ears, and so it is very common. So definitely spend some time with the included fit kit that comes with all of our SE earphones, and try to get the right fit, not only for yourself but for each ear.
Exactly. I didn't even think about that. I have consistent ears though. I don't have to worry about that. God. Hey, let's all right, closing out. So demystifying in-ear monitors. The front of this video and what we're about to talk about probably are the two biggest takeaways tied to our chosen title. Why you would use them, and then best practices for them. You just mentioned one that I thought was very important, which is wearing both ears. But before that, I think the number one thing that I've had to tell people when they decide to dive into in-ear monitors is to commit to them, is to know that the first time you use them, there may be a feeling of isolation. There may be a desire to flick one ear out to have some ambience in the room and feel that energy or hear that energy. Or you may combine it with, like you said at the top of this, Corey, like some existing wedges, and then slowly but surely you just go back to the wedges. You have to trust us, if you will, if nobody else, and know that once you get it right, it is the way, and it is so much better. But it may take a couple times of trying them before you feel that way. So my first tip with best practice is commit to them and trust us, I would say.
Yeah, and best practices, use them while you're rehearsing, in your practice space, your garage, what have you, so that when you do go from rehearsals to the stage, you've got that same consistency, and you can slowly but surely become more acclimated to using them.
Familiar. So. Right. We talked about getting a proper fit for isolation. That is back to the hearing conservation thing and the performance of your earphone. Take the time to get your earphone fit right. And then back to your point, Corey, because this is a huge one, is wear both earphones. You have to wear both earphones. It's actually, you're smarter than I am. Maybe you know the science behind it. It's actually very taxing on your brain and your self to have two dramatically different sound sources pumping through your head at the same time, meaning very close source, tight and controlled, to loud, ambient, non-stereo field type of source. You can actually make yourself sick doing it.
Definitely. And your brain is doing all kinds of processing and trying to compensate, and it's bad for both ears to do that.
So if you have the feel in the moment, like I need less isolation, do what Corey said, throw up a mic or add a mic or have some sort of mix variation to heighten the connection to the audience. The audience mic is really easy to do, and it's probably the best bet. Or go back to square one and sound check with your engineer next time or in the moment and get the mix better for you. Because if you have your mix right, you're not going to want to hear the riff-raff in the room nearly as much as you maybe think you do. So it's probably more with your mix setup than it is earphones being in. So wear both earphones, please. That's a huge deal. Corey, you can probably talk about this more than I can, given your experience, but from going from sound check to starting the gig, a lot of times something always fails. Like it sounded great in sound check, but now we start and my wireless isn't working, or whatever it is. And sometimes if it's an RF, radio frequency scenario, it comes down to the positioning of receiver and transmitter, wireless system, and in-ear monitor system. So try to place in-ear monitor transmitters as far from wireless receivers as possible. Physically move them apart, right? Can you speak to that at all?
Yeah, so I mean, as with anything wireless, whether it's wireless mics or wireless in-ear monitor systems, the placement of the rack as well as placement of antennas is going to be key. All of our in-ear monitor systems with the proper antenna setup and optimal conditions can get up to 300 feet away from transmitter to receiver. So,
Whoa.
like you said, you could go out into the crowd. If you've got a wireless guitar system and wireless in-ears, you can go out and run around the crowd and not have to worry about any sort of dropouts. But once again, that's with optimal conditions. So we make a number of different products that can help with that. So depending on the system, it would either come packaged with a quarter wave or a half wave antenna. Um, your PSM system would, but we also make once again a number of antenna options that can increase that reliability depending on even the most harsh of environments. So we make some shark fin style directional antennas that you can set side stage, have it pointing across the front of the stage, and get a better reliability than just the included omnidirectional one that comes out of box. We also make we distribute PWS makes a helical antenna that is commonly seen on the side of football stadiums, football games. That's going to just be an overkill for most situations, but if you need it, we got it. Yep, there you go.
This is an example of a
AG.
helical. It looks like a Star Wars gun. This may not be the specific one you're referring to, but a helical.
It's 8089 is the UHF one, but yeah.
I will search about it. I was typing in antennas because there are so many.
Many. Like I said, we make so many options for any sort of whatever your use case is.
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. So I mean that's like top tier. Take those on the road with even the biggest stadiums and arenas, etc. But yeah, so it comes packaged with an antenna that can plug straight onto the transmitter, and that will work just fine in most cases. But if you're having issues with wireless interference, we make a number of different antennas that can help depending on your situation. So
right. So we don't have a ton of time to get into other scaling up systems types things. So if you're a band and you have 2 systems and you want to scale to 4, and then you're into a worship band and you need 15, there are elegant ways to do that type of thing that involve antenna combining with some antenna schemes, some antenna strategies to improve the performance of that. And it's a little more complicated than just adding more and hitting on. And that's when things like wireless workbench may come into play, or leveraging us, your local Shure rep, for helping with that kind of consultation. But there is so
Shure
many.
rep or yeah.
Go ahead with the Shure applications.
Shure rep or our applications department, located here in Chicago. We've got people on staff to answer those questions for you. And if you've already got a system, you're just having some issues here and there, give them a call, and likely it's just a matter of switching your setup a little bit.
Yeah, and we talked about this a few times, but it's in-ear monitors are part of an entire RF radio frequency system. Sometimes it also includes wireless microphones. It could be quite expansive. So there are so many pieces and accessories and problem solvers in the Shure line alone to enhance that and to make sure it is all functioning properly. And so lean on us for those types of things, because that's what we're here for.
But whether you've got the PSM 300 or the 1000, the operation is just as simple. For just reference with the PSM 300 pack I'm holding, you go into a new venue, you've only got your one PSM system. You can quickly scan for a new good frequency, sync that up to your transmitter, and within literally 60 seconds, you're up and running and good to go with a good frequency. So it's that easy. We make it easy intentionally so that you can just, quickly get up and running and, have no issues doing so.
Right. Perfect. So, okay. Summing up our fun today, we had reasons why in-ear monitors may make sense for you. It's hearing conservation, mobility, better referencing on stage, cleaner referencing, more accurate referencing, if you will, consistency, repeatability, ability to
Saving your
upgrade
voice. Yeah.
saving your voice. Even if you're did he say you were a terrible singer, or what did he say again?
Worst voice I've ever heard, I believe, was the quote. But
Can you give us,
um,
can you sing something? I'm curious what that actually sounds like.
oh no, it's fine.
Okay, that's good. Good idea. So ability to upgrade with just headphones, earphones, whatever it is. Two best practices, meaning you got to commit to them. Once you do, you will be shocked that you ever used anything different. Make sure you take the time to get a proper fit with your earphones, and then decide from there if you need to step up for enhancements in the spectrum or whatever. And always wear both earphones, and then take the time to make sure you're actually setting them up properly, whether it's one system or it's 50, physical location, antenna schemes, putting them in a rack with other antennas, or excuse me, with other systems, physically their location compared to other wireless that's happening. Those are all questions you need to ask and to consider before you just dive straight in, because if you get all that right, then you'll be happy and everything will be great. And that's all we care about, everybody, is your happiness.
Absolutely.
What else?
Couldn't
Corey?
have said it better. I think you touched on just about everything. I mean, there are huge benefits, countless benefits to going to an in-ear monitor system over just a standard wedge, and then that, like you said, hopefully soon will be a thing of the past, or literally just used to put your foot up on during guitar solos or those
Tremonti.
belting notes. Yeah, Tremonti. Yeah.
Okay, so here we are in May 2020. I hope that we're all going to be able to go out and perform and see performances sometime this year. I think we're all excited for that. So if you've never tried in-ears, let us know how we can help make that happen. If nothing else, perhaps now when you are watching performers, even on TV, you'll start noticing things like shark fin antennas and earphones and things like that. And that's an entire world you may not have understood. And I hope that this was at least enlightening for those of you that knew nothing, all the way to those of you that are more savvy than we are, which is probably a lot of you. This was fun, man. I really appreciate you coming on. I hope maybe we can do this in a few weeks. We can kick off another mini series with other topics. If you all have topics for us, bring them on. We would love some ammo. We don't want to pretend where you need help most. So let us know, because we can do these all the time. They're quite fun.
Yeah. And if there's anything we didn't cover in this, reach out to McFaddenSales or, Shure, our applications department. And, like I said, we have countless options when it comes to problem solvers. So if you got a question, we're here to answer it.
Perfect. All right, Corey, thank you. Thank you, everybody who's watching. We will see you on the other side.
Thanks. Bye, everybody.